So first off, let's welcome Charles Delbeek and Julian Sprung. Second, thanks everyone for registering and donating and help keeping this awesome event going. Thanks, Julian, for leaving Reefapalooza a little early and flying up here today. That's really awesome of you. And thanks for both of you guys for being here. And thanks to my sponsor, Bay Area Reefers, local reef club. Usually I do introductions, but I don't think I need to do introductions today.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, all right. So let's dive into some stuff, some back history on you guys. When did you guys first meet?
Once upon a time, Charles lived in Toronto, okay? And he was like the guy who did everything at the Marine Aquarium Society of Toronto, right? Pretty much? No, there were other people, but anyway, he was the hospitality guy. And I don't know whether you coordinated my visit there?
Well, because I lived at home, and my parents were in Florida for all winter long, as most Canadians do. So
yeah,
I was like the de facto, whoever came stayed at my place. So we actually, Julian...
Hotel manager.
Julian used to work for well, a year prior to that, some of you might remember the name J.P. Burleson.
Nah.
So he had a company that made trickle filters, and he was the U.S. rep for Tunze and also for Dupla. And so we had him come up to Toronto and give a talk, and he hated talking. And he said, I'm not going to give a talk.
John Burleson.
I would just sit there and answer questions. So we did that, went over well. So the next year they invited him again, and he said, no, I don't want to come. But I just hired this young guy from the University of Florida who's really good. I'm going to send him. So I said, okay, well, we don't know who that is. Never heard of that guy, but all right. And I said, well, I told the club president he could stay with me. So I go to the airport, and I get off the plane. I'm waiting for this guy to come through immigration.
Did he have a
And
bullet?
off the plane, this guy, can't see that picture there, but if you look at the back of volume 1, hair down to his butt, and then a brush cut on top. And I thought, oh my God, what have I got myself into? And anyway, we became fast friends. That's how we first met.
Yes.
And then actually, that'd be 1988?
88,
Yeah, something like
And then
that.
how did the relationship grow as far as not just friendship, but reef related?
Well, he proposed to me right after that.
Yes,
and,
yes.
But no.
Diamond ring and
Yeah.
all, the whole, yeah.
Julian had a column called Reef Notes in Freshwater Marine Aquarium magazine, FAMA. And I had just started writing articles for the local club. And then I had my first one in FAMA, I think in '86.
Yeah.
And so we had already been kind of writing.
Yeah.
And the year after I think you came, I went down to Maryland where they were based for a job interview. And then during spring break, I was a high school science teacher. And I spent like 3 days there before the last day. And I finally got he gave me an offer of what to do. And they said, you can have 2 weeks vacation, and in 10 years, you can have 3 weeks. And I said, thank you, but no thank you. I get a month, I get 2 months off in the summer, and I get Christmas. Anyway, that never happened, but we just stayed in touch. And then at that time, Julian left and went working for Rick's Fish and Pets in Maryland.
Yes.
And then I would go down to Florida on vacation, and we hook up in Miami when he was living down in Miami. Well, not hook up, but we would meet again in Miami. And then I had an idea about writing a book, because at that time there was really the few books that are out there were just thinly disguised advertisements for somebody's company.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of misinformation and
not much information.
Not much information,
Yeah.
and a lot of it was inaccurate. And I had done a master's in zoology, which I graduated with in '86, and so I was used to reading the scientific literature, and I would always look for articles that had to do with coral reefs, and try to figure out how to incorporate that into my writing.
There was no internet back then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's remind you folks.
yeah, that's true.
We went to a place that was called a library.
Yes.
And we used to
And I used to sit there
read
and
journals.
read, yeah. And
We'd get down sit on the floor.
Writing letters back.
yeah, we had email.
We had, not initially. There were faxes and phone calls.
That's true.
Initially, yeah.
That's true. So I had the idea that I wanted to write a book, like a scientific book, that
Yeah.
was based and backed up with citations from the literature, and just to educate people about what we're trying to recreate. And I approached Julian, And he said, a book? No, I don't want to do a book.
I did not say that.
Yeah, I don't want to do a book. Anyway.
That's not true. Yeah.
So that's where it started. And then, when we started working on this book, our editor and publisher
On volume 1.
was Daniel Ramirez, and he had a brilliant idea about why don't we sell it first in FAMA with a full-page ad, and when you do something like that, if you don't have a product, you can't take the money. It has to go into what's called an escrow account.
Yeah.
So we were selling that book. I think it was like 59 or 60. It was cheaper than if you would wait to buy it when it came out.
Yeah.
And we pre-sold enough to pay for the entire printing run.
Yeah.
So we knew there was a lot of demand.
A lot of demand.
And so the books came in. I flew down to Miami. We sat in Danny's kitchen table, and he kept pushing us to sign all these books because these people had paid extra $5 to have our signature in it. So we had to sign all these books and then ship them out. And that's how we.
What year was this?
That would be 1994.
94.
That's when the
correct.
first book was written.
Yeah, and so it was. I think at that time it was one of the most successful books that was self-published.
Yeah.
Before that,
for sure.
everything was out by, TFH, pretty much, and a couple others. Albert Thiel had some books out.
Yeah.
And then volume 3, that
of course,
was
Martin Moe was-
2005.
And Martin Moe, of course, yes.
Yeah.
2005,
Yeah.
volume
So
3.
when we wrote the first book,
Yeah.
Danny said this book is too big. We'd have to charge, I don't know, $150. Nobody will buy it.
Yeah.
So he came up with the idea we should split it in two. So that's why volume 2 came out so much quicker.
Yeah.
Because that one was pretty much.
That was in 97.
Yeah, so that one was pretty well written, and we just had to add some more stuff and get photos and do the layout and everything.
Yeah.
And then it was not until 2005 that we did volume 3.
Another question on that topic. So, volume 4 in the future.
When after volume 3 came out, both of us immediately said no to that answer, to that question. And more recently, recognizing that volume 3 is out of print and not really available, and that most of the information in there is still quite valid and relevant. We have talked about, adding information that has, developed since then.
It's been 20 years.
Right.
Yeah, it's already been 20 years.
20 years.
Right.
And add good information, maybe take out some things that don't necessarily need to be there and make a volume 4. We have just talked about that. So
That was my next question about that. Like, it has been 20 years, and do you think that reasoning is part of a lot of things haven't changed for successful husbandry and reef keeping?
I mean, some things just are never going to change,
Right.
but there's always going to be something new because there's really so much to learn still.
Yeah.
But all of the basics that are so useful there are not as readily available in a book form. They may be available in a very scattered form online. But I think there's really some value to having it in a.
What about
in a good
doing a
book.
reprint of volume 3?
Well, I mean, we could. My experience as a publisher, that the sales of books these days is nothing quite like it used to be. It's actually, the pendulum has swung back up. It's better now than it was even 5 years ago. But if we're going to reprint it, why not add something new and then give it a,
Like a
Because people who already have volume 3, they're not going to buy another one.
right.
true.
So
but a lot
if
of
you
people
update
don't.
it and have more information in it, I have to say too. I mean, I go back and reference some of the even volume 1, which is
Yeah, I do
like
too.
30 years ago. And I go, wow, we were
Yeah.
pretty smart back then.
It had some good information.
I forgot that stuff.
Maybe you could do a revised
I'm not
edition
alone
of
in
all
that.
3 in one book.
No, you're not.
It is amazing to look back at stuff that you haven't looked at in so many years and, realize that you forgot that you had put the effort and done that. And, oh yeah, this is quite good.
And I think even volume 1, if you go back and look at it, a lot of the information there is still relevant
Yes.
today.
Very,
Yeah.
very
And the same with 2 and 3. I mean, sure, there's We
Yeah.
know more about the biology of these animals. We understand more about the microbiome. This is a whole new term that came up. And there's no
Yeah.
mention of that in here. There's a little bit of talk about it, but
Yeah.
our discussion of like nutrition and trace elements and things like that,
Yeah, it was
there's
right
some
on.
predictions. Yeah, we were pretty well right on with all that.
Yeah.
stuff.
And there was some
Not that everything was
significant
right.
amount of scientific literature consulted in
The most
sharing those
embarrassing thing was that we spelled Tubastrea wrong.
Yeah,
And throughout the books, like, holy shit, how did we miss that?
yeah.
And he's like, it's not worth doing a reprint, Charles.
Yeah.
It's too many pages. So.
Yeah, I mean there were a number of little bitty errors that we did fix on reprints, but
Subsequent reprints.
subsequents, but,
But not that
there's
one.
not that one, and there's always
Yeah.
yeah,
Because I always tease people at work, you're spelling it wrong. That's not
yeah,
how you spell it.
right.
Well, we learned it from you.
Yes, one of the funny. Yes, there
Thanks,
you go.
Kenny.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but don't accept that, right? Yeah, one of the things you learn in writing and publishing books is it doesn't matter how many times you do a proofreading. It isn't until the book is done, printed, and you receive it that the first page you open to is where you find errors.
And then there's always
And
somebody
without
that will
any effort.
write you and tell you, you got this all wrong.
Yeah,
And your formula is wrong. I'm going to go, oh shit, you're
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's get in a little bit about nutrients. Charles recently did a talk here on molar ratio and his study and findings with it. Have you yourself experimented with the molar ratio? Do you
I have not.
agree with?
I was really intrigued with what Charles is doing, and my comments to him at the time was, "Wow, that's really great," and especially the correlation of coral health to playing with the ratios. And I said, "Boy, if you can really replicate that, and come up with a recipe that if it's." Within these ratios, you can say this is going to happen or this is not going to happen. That will be fantastic because it's a missing thing. I mean, no matter how skilled you are, there is always a day when you come and look at your aquarium and a certain coral is not as happy as it should be.
Absolutely.
And no matter how skilled you are, you may not know why that is. And if those molar ratios of nutrients are a factor, which they probably are, and you could have more control, that's an amazing tool. So more power to you, Charles, in doing that work. I'm
And with that
excited
molar
about it.
ratio, do you think what is your guys' take on like what range of NO3 and PO4 is the best area?
There is no best one. So
What have you seen?
well, the problem is for me, I'm dealing with a very large system that has very high levels of nitrogen and phosphorus. So that's what I'm basing all my opinion on. Also, and I've looked, I reached out to other institutions and I got their data.
Yeah.
Keith from Reef
Steve
was
Carter.
was kind enough to share. Like I saw his video about his Acropora, and he gave me his numbers, and I pointed out that his ratios, when the things were so pale, the ratio was quite high.
Yeah.
And so when he got it back, and it's just a small change, makes a huge difference in that ratio. And also in looking in the scientific literature, a lot of those ratios are, some species react differently than other species.
That's key too.
And cropper in particular is just really strange in how it reacts to things. Soft corals in general could care less what the ratio is. So there's still a lot to learn about it. I was speaking when I was in Monaco last year, I spoke with one of the researchers who spent like 15 years working on this stuff. And she was saying like even some of the published papers that are out there, if you look at papers that were from the 70s and 90s and in between, they talk about, they only adjusted one thing. So they said, oh, nitrate, if you do this, it's bad. The corals reacted badly. And her whole point was, yeah, but nobody looked at the phosphate. Because now if you do that, the ratio is out of balance. And so a lot of these negative effects that they were attributing to high nitrate could have been just because there wasn't enough phosphate.
Limiting.
So it's a limiting nutrient. and also it seems the phosphorus is more important than the nitrogen. So you can have quite low nitrogen and still be okay as long as the phosphorus is at a good level. But if your phosphorus gets too low compared to your nitrogen, then that's when you start having problems. And the reason why is because it's a fertilizer for the zooxanthellae. And there was an interesting paper that someone wrote talking about how the corals essentially are farming the zooxanthellae by limiting how much nitrogen and phosphorus they're getting. And so when the environment gives more, then now the corals lost control of the zooxanthellae, and the zooxanthellae are absorbing that nitrogen from the water and the phosphorus as well. And then they start to increase in number, and the corals lost control of it. So that's something that I want to look at more. I want to write an article about that whole stuff. I just haven't found the time and the motivation to do it, because now I have to go and read all those papers again. Because I read a bunch of them, I made notes, I was going to write an article, and that was like a year and a half ago. So I haven't done it yet, but there's more stuff that's coming to light about it.
Wouldn't it be cool if one of the uses of AI would be to have a personal assistant that you could share your thoughts about subject that you're researching, and that assistant would remember everything and where you left off, and then you could.
You know, I was just watching
like
the last South Park
memory
episode where ChatGPT was, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's wonderful. You're a genius. You
That's
should
your
do that.
yes person.
Yes, that's my yes person. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no, that would be awesome if you could synthesize all that stuff.
Yeah.
On that subject, this is from Rich Ross. What is the role of scientific papers in practical reef keeping?
None whatsoever. It's all speculation and feel, right?
So
What looks good feels good.
A rebuttal question to that.
I think.
Yeah, and I'm teasing, of course.
After I just talked about it, all the time I spent reading the literature. I think I think in some cases it adds validity to what we see, and it helps us to understand what we're seeing. Like, why is that happening? I think, you know, I've talked a lot with Claude Schumacher at Fauna Marin, and he is very down on a lot of researchers because he said they don't understand the coral animal.
There's truth to that.
They don't have empathy, they don't have that feeling, they don't have the experience working with the live animal.
Yep.
They're all basically, it's all about the numbers and the data. And so there's a lot of truth to that as well, I think, that you have to have a little bit of both. So
you do need to have both. It is a yin and yang.
But I think for me, it's helping me to better understand what I see and explain what I'm seeing. So with our tank in particular, I went back the 17 years that we have data and graphed the nitrogen and phosphorus, and there were these gaps where there was the gap between the two of them got so large that the ratio got quite high, like over 200, over 300, and we could see that the corals weren't doing well. And so, but my goal is, like my nitrates run around 35 to 45, and my phosphate is 0.65 to 0.75. I don't want it that high.
That's high.
I want to get it lower, but if I lower my phosphate, then I get into trouble. So what I'm trying to figure out now is how can I get my nitrates down so that I can then balance it and get my phosphate down the same kind of ratio. Ideally, I want to get it down to 5 or 10 in nitrate, and then my phosphate would be like 0.05, something like that.
Do you notice like slower coral growth in the system because of those higher
No,
nutrients?
things are growing great. The problem is that they're growing so fast that the skeleton density is low. I mean, with the Montipora foliosa, like the orange Montes, you can see light coming through them.
Wow.
So and same with the Echinophilia. They're like little potato chips. So they break apart really easily. Some corals don't show that effect as much. So one of my speculations was if I keep the alkalinity really high, will that then result in a stronger skeleton? So I've actually talked to some of the researchers at the Academy about you can do what's it called again? Some kind of an X-ray analysis of the skeleton, and it will tell you the density. And so they said, well, why don't you just get samples from people's aquariums and get their nitrogen and phosphorus numbers, and then see if there's any kind of correlation. So when I was in Hawaii, Bruce Carlson did something like that with Colastria. So he had collected calaster, I think it was from Guam, and we had it for decades in the aquarium. And so we had whole heads that had grown only in the aquarium, and you could take some of them and you could just literally crush it in your hand. Same with Euphyllia and Cora, the hammer coral, you could crush it. And so he went back to Guam, and he had, it's just an example of how his mind works. He had the GPS coordinates from the 1980s of where he collected it, found the exact same colony, and collected branches from it. And then he worked with Bob Budemeyer, University of Kansas, and they looked at the density, and our corals had 50% of the density of the wild ones. So that's why right now my alkalinity is about 2.8 molar equivalents to 2.9. I can't get it much higher than that. I'm running the reactors at 6.2 pH. I'm using arms in those reactors, and I can't get it to go much higher than that because the corals are growing so much. The water that we use for backwash has 3.2 molar equivalents, but as most of you know, the fresh water that we get comes from different reservoirs, and they switch those reservoirs. And one reservoir has an alkalinity of 1 to 1.1 molar equivalents, the other one is 0.4. So when we top off the tank with fresh water, on the low reservoir, I'm not getting as much alkalinity. But we have a lot of coral now, and so it's really sucking it up. So I'm looking into building, I have some empty reactors that I got from MRC that we're not using right now, and they have 3 times the volume of the ones I have now. So I'm looking at replumbing those and bringing those online so I can get more.
What about calcium hydroxide?
In 212,000 gallons.
Yeah.
We have I guess it's probably about a 55-gallon barrel, and I have 50-pound bags of sodium hydroxide, calcium hydroxide. So Matt remembers we used to have to shovel that stuff in, and it was messy, and you have to wear a respirator, and it's a pain in the ass. But the reason we stopped using it because our alkalinity was getting too high. So I just was thinking over the weekend maybe getting it.
With the cement giving you some alkalinity or no?
Well, the tank is made of concrete.
Yeah.
And that's just not just the walls, but all the rock work. It's all cinder block filled with concrete that's then skinned over with concrete. Yeah. So originally when we opened, we had 6 Shurang calcium reactors. They're about $10,000 each. They broke, like constantly were breaking because they're 15 feet below the water level of the tank.
Too much pressure.
Too much pressure. If you open the valve too much, you would literally pop the lid off. So we actually said, screw it, we're taking them off. And for 2 years, I never added any calcium or alkalinity.
Because of the leaching?
Because all the leaching. And then we started noticing over time it was starting to go down. So then we added these other reactors that we had from downtown. And Georgia Aquarium had the same issue. Their tank is different in that all their rock work is fiberglass. And so initially for 2 years, they were relying on the walls. They had a large sand filter filled with calcium carbonate as a calcium reactor, but they didn't run it because they didn't need it. And then within a period of a month, everything just crashed. And so they had to bring that thing online really quickly. Now they don't, now it works fine, but basically the reservoir of calcium and alkalinity stopped because the concrete got coated and that was it. It wasn't releasing anymore.
As hobbyists, we don't really see that happen because our tanks are made of glass or acrylic. But public aquarium, they have a different.
And as hobbyists, is there a role for a practical reef keeping experience? And is there a role in practical reef keeping from scientific papers?
I think the question was, is there a role for practical reef keeping in science papers, scientific papers?
Yes, and is there a role for practical reef keeping experience in scientific?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think I've seen that. I mean, Rich was a master's student, so clearly he had that experience in working with that stuff. And I think most of the younger people that I see in research started off as hobbyists.
Yeah.
And started off keeping reef tanks. And
Yes.
so
Now you see that.
Yeah.
There was a time when that was
20
not the
years
case.
ago, you did not see that.
Yeah.
And you had people there were still people back then who would tell you cannot keep corals in an aquarium.
Right.
Right. And think now of all the advances in reef restoration. All of it's based on the work that was done by the reef aquarium hobby.
And all the propagation technique.
All the techniques. It's all there, and
I mean, the researchers took it like microfragmentation and like
Yeah.
taking individual polyps and cutting them out and gluing them down.
Yeah.
They did that work in Hawaii back in the mid-2000s where they did porites and they cut them into what's the smallest piece that we can cut that will then regrow so that we can make thousands of them and put them back on to restore reefs that are been damaged by boat groundings and bleaching and things like that.
Or just think about even now, Jamie Craggs and all the people doing the spawning, that was possible because of the reef aquarium hobby and the technology of the computers and LED lights and control to, match the photo periods and lunar cycles and promote spawning. That, it's been published and replicated so many times, but the origin is the aquarium hobby.
So you have the Florida, down the Florida Aquarium, their whole Caribbean coral program.
Yeah.
It's all run with Apex computer and all the fractionators that come from the hobby.
Yeah.
Same at the sea simulator in Australia at Ames.
Yeah.
It's all because of the hobby.
Rich Ross also asks, how are you guys so sexy?
Well,
I'll have him answer that question.
Yeah.
Since he thinks we are.
besitos, right?
What's your guys' take
Not
on
as sexy as Rich though. Rich.
No, Rich is, he's a
uber,
god.
He's
Yeah.
uber sexy.
especially with
Yeah.
Douglas?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Knives.
In shorts.
Yeah.
What's your guys' take on antibiotic use on corals from a public aquaria standpoint and like a home hobbyist, like treating their tanks with Cipro and stuff like
Well,
that?
there's a huge difference between the two. The biggest that difference is that we have veterinarians.
Yeah.
So they are licensed to do that work. They understand it. They know the safeguards. They know how to dispose of it properly. So, and they know how to neutralize it so you don't flush it down into your municipal water system. And we have regulations on how we use that stuff. So we are totally regulated.
Right. Whereas a home hobbyist using Cipro and disposing of it down the toilets and the drains.
Yeah.
Some.
Yeah.
And then not really understanding, like, it's just something that's prevalent in society today where people just throw pills and drugs at whatever the problems they have,
And,
not
and
realizing.
create cocktails of mixes of different ones too.
Yeah, not really targeting what the problem is. So you could be treating a broad spectrum antibiotic for something that could be targeted with a specific antibiotic, and then result of that is that you then start generating resistant strains.
The super strains.
Yeah, and then you have that. I mean, people have it in their bodies. I mean, it's part of the reason why they think there's problems now with colon cancer going up is because the microbiome in our guts has been so altered by antibiotics
Yeah.
that the balance isn't there.
Right.
But I'm not a doctor.
Nope. Just play one on TV right now. Yeah.
Couple questions on lighting, non-metal halide questions. But what is your guys' perspective on best form of lighting combinations, non-metal halide? Let's get that there. Like LEDs, T5s, hybrid combos of LED T5s, LED light bars for accents or T5s for accents. Do you guys have any?
What about the sun?
Well, I wish we could use that inside of our homes. And
Yeah. Well, you
buildings.
can do solar tubes, right? No, but yeah, it really depends on the dimensions of the aquarium. So, best lighting sources for a tank of the size that Charles is managing, you're kind of limited. You can
Need deep penetration.
Yeah, deep penetration. But at shallow aquariums like this, you can try all sorts of things in combinations. And I think the key to look at it is the reflectors and light spread, how much lighting you want over the tank. There's something to be said to having a minimalist approach. Can you illuminate the aquarium with one light, a single pendant, or do you need full length strips and multiple things? Back in the day, when we first met with John Burleson, back then everyone was using fluorescent tubes, in the United States at least. We had these reflectors, something like that, a hood, and waterproof end caps and a certain number of high output or very high output fluorescent tubes, and by gosh, it worked really good.
Yeah, the high compact fluorescence.
Yeah, but the
Not those, even just the straight tubes.
straight tubes, yeah, before power compacts.
Yeah.
And
And the 60 watt and the 120 watt.
yeah,
And then it was the Tinic Blues,
yeah,
which they took from the photocopying industry.
right.
And yeah, the hobbies always was about borrowing tech from other
Yes.
industries and making it, finding a use for it.
Right. So that
They actually
kind
use,
of
they usually use, sorry,
Yeah.
they always
Yeah.
use those actinic lamps
yeah,
in hospitals
for the babies.
for babies that are
Yeah.
born with bilirubin.
Right,
Yeah.
problem. Yeah,
Yeah, so they're-
jaundice.
Jaundiced.
Yeah.
And that's where people, that's a lot of UV coming out of there. It's very blue. Wonder what that would look like on a coral tank, because we need a lot of blue.
Right.
And in those days, you could buy fluorescent tubes that were like wide spectrum or daylight, or the Vitalite, the light that puts vitamins into the water.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good one. And anyway,
Durotest.
yeah. So John
Power
Burleson was
twist.
the one that started. Yeah, the power twist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, John Burleson was the one that
Yeah.
started with the
Phillips
actinic blues.
actinic. Yeah. And really, nothing today is really any better than that. It's just it's different technology. Power consumption is different, of course. So yeah, they were not as efficient, but
I think the biggest thing is difference
Yeah.
now is that there's hardly any UV anymore.
yeah, it's true. Unless you use some metal halide.
Yes, unless you have metal halide, or if you have LEDs that are UV. But the problem
Yeah.
with those is they don't last very long.
Right, they burn the lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, but all of it works. And I think, it's important to look for a public aquarium or a coral farm to look at energy efficiency, power consumption. For an individual home aquarium, it's maybe not as important. You're really just looking for what's successful, what looks pretty. A lot of hobbyists are really turned on by the fluorescent excitation of the blue light. And I like that too, but I'm kind of old school. I really do like the look of a shallow water white light system. If I want to look at it with blue light, let that be in the morning or the evening, is how I look at it. But these days, most of the tanks are really much more blue, most of the photo period, which is okay for the corals too.
All our smaller
Yeah.
tanks at the Steinhardt, as Kira can attest to, she's still
Yeah.
awake back there,
Yeah,
that we use all LEDs on everything. But we played around with radions. We have some Philips Coral Care. We have AI Primes. So
Yeah.
we have Max Spec,
And they all work.
and we have Kessels.
yeah, they all work.
And they all kind of work. Yeah, they all basically all work. They're just they're different ways that they. Some are better at distributing the light evenly over the tank.
Yep.
I think one thing that we miss from the metal halides is the glitter lines.
Yep.
Though the LEDs can give some really intense glitter lines, but probably sometimes
If you
too
have
intense.
a spot, yeah.
Yeah, because the Kessels are really, really notorious for giving very strong
Yeah.
glitter lines. So we actually use diffusers
And
on
they
them.
get deep.
Yes.
They could penetrate pretty deep.
Yeah, yeah.
What's your guys' favorite home reef tank
You mean
that you guys
individual?
have seen?
Julian's.
Oh, come on. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice of you.
I haven't.
You
I haven't had
been
the
to Polar
opportunity.
Reef, right?
You know, I haven't had the opportunity to visit
Yeah.
since probably the last 10, 20 years, people's tanks as much as I used to.
Yeah.
So mostly when I go, I see public aquariums.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite public aquarium reef tank?
Oh, well, I really like, I think they all have something to offer. They all have, some of them have like unique specimens, or the way that they've laid it out, or just the age and size of some of the pieces. So, I mean, Joe's tank, of course,
Yeah.
is,
Yeah, it's
That's why I
magnificent.
was
It's
going
up
to bring this
there.
tank up.
yeah, Joe's tank, of course. The Burgers Ocean tank in the Netherlands, it's 180,000 gallons. I mean, you swim, you look at that tank, you swim over it, you swear you're on a coral reef.
What about Karlsruhe.
Yeah, Karlsruhe, in Germany.
Yeah.
So I wrote the article in Coral Magazine last year
Yeah.
with the black tip reef sharks in it.
Yeah.
That's a pretty spectacular
And not just
tank.
that one big tank, but also a
All
lot of
the
the
small tanks.
small tanks there.
So he uses the bolus method, although he doesn't call it that because he was using it before then, where he adds his alkalinity in the morning before the lights come on, and then we opened the tanks with him in the morning, and he said, "Here's all I do." He opens up the door, has a bag there, takes a scoop, and goes in the south and closes the door. Done.
Dang.
And then in the afternoon, calcium chloride. Done. Yeah, so it's really that easy. Yeah, it's very easy.
Yeah.
So
Just shoot it right back up.
yeah,
Yes. He's great.
yeah, he's
Yeah.
great. He's
Hannes.
he's retired. I think
soon.
I think he is retired now. I think he's it's already August. Yeah, I think his replacement has started already.
That's
but,
terrible.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
one of those aquarists, like old school aquarists, who just knows something about everything
Yeah.
And
Really
it's
one of the best in the world.
and collects
truly.
his own stuff. Goes down to the Mediterranean. It's just like unreal, unreal. But for home aquariums, no, I haven't seen that.
I have
one.
seen.
You've
yeah,
seen a lot more than I have.
Right. I mean, Polar Reef is quite nice, and it's. I mean, you on Facebook you see the main big tank, but he's got quite a few other.
The smaller ones that are
They're not
just
so small, but smaller than that
smaller
giant
than the
one.
17,000
and they're
gallons.
really they're all different and really interesting. And you know, of course, he has no budget, so he's getting some of the best of the best, both of corals and fish. So it's inspiring, really. You know, something to see. But I have to say, you know, year after year, visiting, there's a store very close to where Reefapalooza is. Amazing Aquarium and Reefs.
Oh, Ali.
Yeah. His displays there just absolutely knock me out. He has the feeling for it. And you have this combination of simplicity
Yeah.
and just aesthetic perfection. It's just, you know, I go there and I feel usually that it's always
inadequate?
rushed. Well, not only feel inadequate, but yeah, I mean, he really did. No, he does. He has an aesthetic that is very much in tune with my own. He does things in a very similar way, and he's spending a lot of time on it. That's his business.
Yeah.
So he spends more time on his than I have time to do mine. So I get to see what mine might look like if I had more time to put into them.
When you retire.
Right, when I retire. But in any case, it's such a pleasure. Just like Hannes, I have that feeling when I see his work. It's like, soulmate. You know, you really, really understand this.
Yeah.
So I hope you all have had that experience when you see an aquarium and it's just like, so beautiful, blowing your mind, the health of everything. And so Ali has that year after year. And it's not, you know, he's consistent. I've been watching this for many, many years.
Is it Anaheim?
Yeah, just outside of Anaheim. You need to see it. Great aquarist. The specimens are big and old, and it's not too crowded. It's just, it's beautiful.
What are some of the oldest fish in plural that you guys might know of?
I just killed my oldest fish.
Accidentally.
No. It happens. What's that?
You were finished with it.
Yeah, I was done with that fish. I'm done with you. I'm not going to cry. Yeah, it was a 29-year-old clownfish.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think the oldest one that I know of
But yeah, there are.
is at Waikiki Aquarium. There's a saddleback butterfly, not saddleback,
Auriga?
no, the Chaetodon utiliensis,
Oh,
the double saddle.
Right.
That was there when I started.
False falcula.
That was 30 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's still there. So it's got to be close to 35, 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Butterfly.
Butterfly, yeah. And then there's clownfish are also, they can get really old.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a clown that was at Martin Moe had it at Walker's Cay in the Bahamas when he was doing the fish breeding there. And it went to a pet store in Orlando, and then has gone. Now I think ORA has it.
Oh, wow.
So that fish,
They're close to 50.
yeah, has to be around 50 years old.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in Germany at that with Johannes's aquarium, he had a clownfish too. I think it was like 40 years he'd had it.
Yeah.
Still laying eggs.
50 years. That's
Yeah.
What about corals? The longest term coral you've seen?
Well,
Well, the
My-
corals are. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, my oldest coral.
that wasn't a
yeah.
new fragment off of an
Right.
older coral.
Right. So my two oldest corals, one is a Pavona cactus that I got as a hitchhiker on a purple mushroom rock back in 1990. And my Duncan Upsamia, which I also got in 1990. So they're both
About 35
within 1
years.
year of each other. Yeah.
Yeah, Bruce Carlson wrote an article, I think, for Coral
Right.
on legacy corals, where he talked about how many decades they've been in there. So
Yeah.
we have some Rumphella gorgonians that he collected in Palau in 1982,
Yeah.
I think, but they're cuttings, right? Not the original pieces, but they've grown and then they take cuttings from them. So the stock, like what is still at Waikiki, it probably is original. There's definitely, I forget what some of the other ones that he had, but he had collected corals back in the 80s.
The Euphilia too is pretty old.
Yeah, the Euphilia, I think that they
Yeah,
still have
Ancora-
it. And the Goniopora?
Fimbriophilia.
The Goniopora he
Right.
collected in Weetalk Atoll
Yes.
in 1982, I think it was, or 1978.
Yeah.
So it was there when the bomb went off. So
Yeah.
What's one of the oldest continuing running systems you guys know of?
Oh, I guess before switching on that, also Stuber's Acropora would be back to the 1980s.
yeah,
Yeah.
But
and
that's all fragments everywhere, though.
Fragments, and it's available all over the hobby.
Stuber's Acropora, yeah.
Yeah.
Acropora formosa was what they,
Yeah.
but they changed that name.
Yeah. Muricata, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
What's one of the oldest continuously running systems you guys might know of?
Continuously running. Maybe at Monaco is some of them? Are they changing them now?
Yeah, well, the big tank that they had there, the original one that Jobert built, it started leaking, so they rebuilt it. They tore it out and they built a new. But they're corals, so there are corals there that Jobert collected in the Red Sea in the 1980s.
Yeah.
So they're still there. Some big old ones in there. And I think the Lobaka Aquarium in
Yes.
Germany also has some very old corals
Yeah.
that they've had. So there's that one tank. What you saw it, the half
Yeah,
round.
the round one.
But then it was all soft corals. Now it's
Yeah.
all stony corals. But that tank's been running since
Yeah.
probably the 80s,
Yeah.
70s. I think most of them are in Europe, would be my guess.
Sure. Yeah.
The oldest systems.
Nomea Aquarium.
Yeah.
Some of the
Sure.
tanks there have been there, same aquarium since the 70s, maybe in the 60s.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've got some old corals too.
Rene Catala.
Rene Catala.
Where do you guys see reef keeping in the next 10 years with all these new innovations and methods and new understandings of husbandry?
Why does it have to be new?
I just think if you kind of project out the graph,
Yeah.
in the direction that we're going, I think more people will be spawning stuff in their tanks.
Yeah.
There'll be more of that. There's going to be all kinds of hybrids that are people making. It's already happened with clownfish. It's a matter of time before people start doing it with coral.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about that. And if we do that kind of thing, then they can never go back to the wild,
Yeah.
ever. So there's right now that if you keep a Indo-Pacific coral that's anywhere near Caribbean water or coral, that you can never put that coral back.
Yeah.
Same, vice versa, same thing. So
No contact.
I think, as we get a better understanding of the microbiome and the role of other organisms, it's kind of like a big wheel that keeps turning, right? I mean, Steve Tyree 20, 30 years ago was talking about cryptic sumps and using sponges. Now that's all the rage again now. People want to do that.
Kalkwasser too.
And Kalkwasser.
Peter Wilkins was the Kalkwasser king. He really made that.
Yeah, he popularized that.
Popularized it, and yeah.
Yeah, all the old stuff just seems like it's,
Yeah.
and that's like where the relevance of, the literature comes from. And it's
Yeah.
like,
I think that lighting technology is growing in leaps and bounds with LEDs. I think it's a matter of time until we get an actual pure white LED, not one that's blue that's been coated
Yeah.
with something. So I think the holy grail right now for
Yeah.
LED. But that's been the case for the past 10 years. So they're trying to develop a true white LED.
Yeah.
I think the LEDs also, the technology is not mature enough yet for us to definitively, because if you buy an LED, it's got a $50,000 hour life.
Yeah.
Nobody's kept them that long, so how do you know? Right? And the technology it's usually not the bulb that goes, it's the electronics that go. They overheat, they break down. There are lights that you can actually measure that over time the par starts to slowly go down. And most manufacturers recognize that it's going to happen, because we have currently we have 72,000 watt metal halides on the coral reef at the Academy, and I said I can buy a new bulb for $120. I cannot buy a $4,000 LED fixture every time it fails or it goes down. So how much life am I going to get out of these things? And what they told me was that for this particular brand, what they do is when they build it, they run it at maximum output for like 100 hours or something like that, because the initial output will drop, just like the metal halides used to do. They would drop, and then that drop gradually slows, and it plateaus, and it very slowly goes down. So the initial period is a drop, so they keep them until they have that drop, and then they set them at 80% output, so that when you get it, and over time as it starts to drop, you can then compensate for that drop, so you can extend the life of that fixture. But still, you cannot. Eventually, you're going to have to replace it. So, how many bulbs would you have to buy over that period of time to break even? I don't know. So I think there's still something to do with the longevity of the LEDs.
Yeah.
And also have LEDs that actually give out some UV without falling apart. Let's see, what else? We had a whole chapter of that in Volume 3.
We did.
You should read it.
Yeah. Probably said some good things.
Maybe we said some good things. I don't know. Let's see if they're true or not. See if they happened.
Right.
with all the new releasing of products at aquarium shows and stuff, Julian, I'm sure you see a lot of it.
Yeah.
How do you kind of filter out the good from, you know, possibly stuff that you don't even need, or snake oil?
Right.
I listen to Reef Beef.
Right. First of all, you make an assumption that I even get to see, or, you know.
You're usually in your booth.
Yeah, I'm in my booth, and I may miss out.
He doesn't even go to the talks.
Right, yeah, I hardly have that
speaking.
chance. Yeah, I mean, I do see some of the new things, whether it, you know, comes across my eyes or desk or whatever directly from the manufacturer or in advertising or at a show, but I definitely don't see all of it. Because I have a certain amount of experience, I may form an opinion, you know, looking at something about its utility, and that opinion may prompt me to then try it, you know, if I have the time. Or I may look at that and think, you know, that's something I just don't see myself doing. So all of that happens. Often I might also just look at it and say, yeah, I'd like to try that someday. That looks really interesting. So, yeah, I mean, there was something in the scientific literature that caught my eye way back when, and I mentioned it, and I think it was in Volume 3. That was the purple non-sulfur bacteria, and that is now kind of hot, the hot thing.
Hyperspace.
Yeah, and you know, they said, oh, we saw that, you know, you wrote about that, and we did invest. And I thought, yeah, one of these days I'll look at it, but I never got around to it. And so it's exciting to see, you know, real results with it.
Yeah, from
I knew that
literature.
it was going to be something cool. And there are.
Tried it?
Huh?
Have you put it into your system yet?
No, I have not. But
Just did, and my water cleared up.
yeah,
Like,
yes, yeah. So, you know, I knew, and let me tell you, there's a long list of things like that. That I have sort of a personal, I need to get around to that and look at it. But it's tough.
Do you kind of wait till you hear from other peers?
No,
that
it's not that. I mean, I have, like I said, a long list of things
Yeah.
that I'm excited about. And it's just day to day, I'm filling out papers and doing stuff that I have to do and never get around to looking at things. So, you know, like Charles said, maybe someday when I retire, I can really investigate cool stuff and share, you know.
I think that, you know, with these products that are coming out there, nowadays with social media and everything, there's nowhere to hide, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to come out pretty quickly whether it works or not, because people
Yes.
are going to let you know. So I think it's
Yeah.
more difficult than it used to be back when we started, like in the 80s and the 90s, when there was no internet and there was no forums, and
Yeah.
you had to rely on word of mouth, and people would put out a book and go and talk at clubs and make all these claims, and you know, it was. I think nowadays, like I said, there's nowhere to hide now. So if you put out a product and people say it's crap,
You're going to get blasted.
you're going to get blasted.
Yeah, which
you
is a
know?
good thing.
Which is a good thing, and
Yeah,
you know, people are now not afraid with ICP testing and things like that to go out and actually test it. And you know,
Yep.
people have done comparison studies and shown that you know these things aren't as accurate as people claim they are.
Bacteria products and stuff like that.
Yeah.
People doing testings on those. And
yeah, it's pretty exciting, you know, on that aspect.
Yeah, what we can test for now.
What
Yeah.
we can test, and that I see. You know, back to your other question about what you see happening in the future. You know, there's a company looking at testing water samples for pathogens. They can pick up the DNA of the pathogens.
Aquabiomics.
I'm not sure if it's that one or another one, but pretty fascinating stuff if the technology is that precise, where you could say, hey, my fish are sick, and the water sample says, yeah, it's cryptocarian or
Yeah, there's,
amylidinium or whatever.
Not Abbott Aqua, that's Jones's company. DX.
Yes, that's
DX
the one.
Aquatic.
That's the one.
They do the at-home ink and velvet test.
Yeah. I mean, wow. You know, I have not personally tested the validity of all of that, but the basic concept, you know, it's based on the same technology that's used,
COVID.
you know, like for COVID, and
test.
it's like, wow, what a great, useful thing. Even the most experienced aquarist can look at a sick fish and misdiagnose it. Not until you get a scraping, which is invasive if you can even catch the fish at all, that you can tell what you're looking at. If you can do it by testing the water, hey, wow.
Just think about when as a retailer and you get a shipment of fish and you just test your water.
Yeah.
See right away
Yes.
Now
you
it
got
doesn't mean that
uranema or whatever.
it doesn't necessarily mean that the fish has it.
It's,
It could come from a system that had it.
Yeah.
but it's in the water.
It's in the water because it's an eDNA, right? It's environmental DNA.
Right.
And they're looking at now. We've done a lot of work with the sunflower sea stars and,
Oh,
and
right.
spawning those, and now they're looking at using eDNA to find out where the populations still exist. I mean, you don't have to go out and dive and look in tide pools and under rocks. You just test the water. Oh,
It's powerful
Yeah.
technology.
yeah.
pretty amazing.
And I
Yes.
think that's really the future where we're
Sure.
heading.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Methods and new, I guess more methods and like, there's just so many things coming out that people will say like game changers and stuff, but is there any new methods or methodologies?
Well, that's one of them. We just
Yeah.
talked about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I would say more in the home aquaria, like methods that you guys maybe have heard of kind of new, like, I mean, Salem's shooting the microbiome stuff out everywhere. And do you think that could be really like one of those game changer type of things for a home Aquarius.
Well, I think, again, that's back to the testing the water and showing what types of bacteria, microbes that you have. There surely is a correlation to the health of the system, and then what are the predominant species. I mean, we know that there are successions that happen. I mean, Charles wrote a great article on algal succession way back when, but there's
1986.
Stability, every reef aquarium goes through this whole ugly phase to stability thing. And there are times when it's right for the corals to be added and growing, and you can test the water and see when you've hit the zone. So that will be another tool coming up if people are patient enough to wait.
And there's been some recent papers. I was reading one recently about looking at how environmental factors affect the microbiome.
Yeah.
Like if you have too much nitrogen, so they're looking at areas that are eutrophic and how's that affecting the microbiome and the balance of bacteria. So it's another way to reinforce that, hey, maybe my nitrogen is not where it needs to be, or my phosphorus is too low. Or too high.
Well, on that environmental aspect too, I just gave I gave the lecture on microbialization, and the group of people, including Forrest Rower, who were looking at that in nature and studying it also in aquariums. The factors that they look at is dissolved organic carbon, oxygen level, and then there's an eDNA analysis that looks at what microbes are present, and those microbes are managed by viruses, by phages that control the population. And it's not just a simple formula that if the phage is present, the microbes are controlled. It only works when the dissolved organic carbon is in a certain place and the oxygen level is in a certain place. But one of the things that Forrest told me was that they can manipulate it with oxygen. So oxygen as a parameter is able to control what phase you have in an aquarium, and presumably there's something to it as well in nature. So that was kind of a moment. You can see my lecture from Reef Retreat on that. We're going to learn more about that.
And Salem's doing a lot of airborne stuff, testing for VOCs and pollutants and seeing what sort of...
I mean, in homes there's all kinds of things coming off of plastics.
Spraying, cleaning your windows.
Hairspray.
Perfumes. Candles.
Right.
The Glade plugins. All kinds of stuff. Incense. Salem will be here tomorrow, actually. I'll have to ask him a little bit about that stuff.
Great.
Will the audience have any questions?
What's that?
Does the audience have any questions?
The last one I kind of had for Charles was what's been your favorite and what's been your worst part about running the 212,000 gallon Philippines Reef?
Just one of each?
Or you could list it out.
I think my favorite thing of doing it is just, it's also the worst thing about this is the challenge of trying to manage something that size, and just working with a lot of really talented people over the years trying to figure that system out. And I think we finally got it to a spot where it's running well. And we had also collaborated with Georgia Aquarium. They started their tank about 3 or 4 years before we did, so we knew that they would be ahead of us in terms of encountering things. And
Is that why you made it bigger than theirs?
That's why we made it bigger, because they have whale sharks and we don't, so we had to do something bigger. But their tank is now at a spot that is doing really well, and ours is finally at that spot too, it seems like, although we still have some issues here and there. So that's the most challenging part, is these unknown things that happen that we don't understand. Why did this happen? So part of that now with the
You
looking
have
at
to
the,
fix that.
with the nitrogen in phosphorus is that now I think I got part of that figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's still weird things that happen. And also it's challenging because it's not just me or our team that work on that tank, it's other departments. So we have to coordinate with these other departments, and sometimes you have people that are well-intentioned but do things that they shouldn't do. And so then that impacts us. So that's challenging. You know, I look at like in the Burgers tank and Johann's tank in Germany.
Yeah.
There's one person that's in charge of everything, and that's what their main focus is, and so they can do that. So with us, it's been challenging because it's a team effort, and the teams are changing all the time. So that's challenging to work under those kinds of constraints. But it's really, and then it's the things that we don't know. Like we weren't there when the tanks were built. So we're now finding things like there's a lot of rust now that's happening, and it's because they didn't use recoated, epoxy-coated rebar. And then when you cross the rebar, you put little metal ties on it, and if those are too close to the surface of the concrete, which ours are, they start to rust, and then that migrates to the rebar, and now we've got all these rust spots, and it's going into the
It's
concrete.
falling. Yeah.
So all of a sudden, my molybdenum levels went up from, like they were 8 parts per billion, and then within 2 months they shot up to 50. And of course I blame Julian
Everybody does that, by the way.
because
And then I hold my breath.
because he sent me 40 pounds of sodium bromide, and I started adding it, and I said, holy shit, what do you know if there's molybdenum in your bromine? He said, I don't know, I've never tested it. So
Right.
I sent it off to Claude at Fauna Marin. He said there's nothing in it but bromine and sodium. I said, okay, well, it's not Julian's fault.
But it's
So
coming from
that was a
Russ.
welcome. He texted me that. He just big smiley face came back. So, and then I think it's because of the rebar, because they add molybdenum into steel to harden it, and so it's all dissolved. We actually found a piece of rebar that long, just sitting out in the open water that they had put rockwork around to hide it.
Wow.
Which after 17 years, you can imagine what that looked like.
Yeah.
It was just, I touched it
break
and it
it
just
off, yeah.
turned into dust, like of orange just came off. So that thing had been leaching
GFO.
for years. It was
More
more
Yeah,
GFO,
more than GFO.
more iron for my tank. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's challenging, is to find these so anyway, and there was a lot of value engineering that went on, so there's challenges for repairs we have to do to the degas towers because we can't isolate them. So it's a lot of problems that hobbyists maybe not encounter, and some problems are similar, but on a scale many magnitudes higher of how to deal with it and how to correct it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
What's your favorite part about visiting Charles at the aquarium? What's your favorite part about the academy?
Well, I mean, first of all, it's great to see Charles, and we see each other about once a year or so, and that's really nice to get together. But
He's only been there like twice?
well, with you there, but I had been there before also. But
How dare you?
how dare I? Cheating. The last couple of times we looked at a number of the smaller aquariums, aside from the big one, which is spectacular. Don't get me wrong, it's great. But some of the smaller exhibits are quite nice, with sea moths, and I like that one with the Bodianus babies, which are probably huge by now, but that one was really nice
Yeah.
last year.
The Campanella in it.
Yeah, and the non-photosynthetic coral tanks that
The Twilight Zone.
Twilight Zone was spectacular, but they closed it down for a while. Now it's
spiral
back.
boards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they redid the front. I mean,
Yes. Oh,
it's made it
just-
prettier.
Just magnificent.
Spiral boards.
Right. All the whip corals and sponges and the fishes that are in those tanks.
Peppermint Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the only one. Does Andrew have any?
I don't
I
think
don't
so.
think he
No,
has one
not
yet.
now. He did in the past, but he
Ours-
does have the
BPs.
narcosis. The yellow ones.
Right.
With,
Right.
so
Yeah, guppies.
yeah.
I know you guys have been on like Reef together and stuff,
Yeah.
but have you guys ever done anything like this together?
Not recently,
But in the past.
a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a time, was it in Washington where we were both speaking at some club there. I mean, it was in a school.
Oh, in a school.
And we went to
yeah.
the school and it was locked.
Right.
The auditorium was locked and there was like 80 people standing there and we couldn't get in. And so they had to call the principal who had
Yeah.
to drive in.
Yeah.
And so in the meantime, we turned over 2 garbage cans and we sat on the garbage cans and we did this.
Yes.
And just answer questions because we had, back those it was projectors and slides, right? So we had
Yeah.
nothing,
No PowerPoint.
Yeah.
no, we didn't have that. So we had to go to a
Yeah.
cafeteria where we were going to show that we couldn't get into the cafeteria.
I
So-
recently threw out some slide carousels. You know, I thought
Yeah.
for a moment, maybe I'll put them on eBay. Somebody will want them. Then I thought, nah, nobody's going to want these. It's just like,
That would have been cool.
yeah.
That was like the Q&A that we did.
Yeah.
And then I remember there was a time that I went to visit Scott Michael in Nebraska. And
Oh.
we went to go talk
Yeah,
at some
that
hotel
story. Yeah.
in Omaha. And we got there and there was nobody there.
Yeah.
There was like 3 people. Because it was Nebraska State versus University of Nebraska
football.
game, which they put at the same time and the same day. And there was nobody there. I think there was 3 people that showed up.
Yeah. It can happen. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you guys. Does anybody have any questions? Matt Mondell.
It's got a big question.
A big, tall question coming
both
our way.
for being here. I'm curious to hear from both of you. You know, if we rewound the clock,
Here, you can come take my seat for a second.
if we rewound the clock 40 years and looked back at, you know, the state of the hobby back then, there's a number of animals that back then we would have said are unkeepable in the future.
Yeah.
Maybe say Aquarium back then, and now we're keeping them easily and spawning them and whatnot in home tanks. Where do you see 20, 30, 40 years from now? What animals in particular do you think are going to just be easy to keep? And I'm secretly hoping part of the answer is carnation corals.
Right. Well, that was going to be the first one that came.
I hope you touch on that, and if you do, I'd just be curious. What are the components that are going to help us get to those places, and what
Yeah.
animals do you see as being the future?
Well, since we've cracked the nut on so many of the difficult ones, there's only a few left. And Dendronephthia and its close relatives is one of those. And then, of course, all the various non-photosynthetic gorgonians, which you already are successful with some of them, right? So, so. Yeah. You know, the puzzle is in nature they do so well. So there has to be a secret sauce. I mean, we know that phytoplankton is part of that answer. We suspect that bacterioplankton might be a part of that answer. We would hope that maybe something we could do to easily cultivate bacterioplankton and or phytoplankton would make that simple, or that some dry powder of the right size could be mass produced and then dosed, you know, in a recipe that suddenly you have Purina Dendronephthia plant or something. Maybe, you know. The truth is, it's absolutely possible that that is true, but from here to there, there's the discovery and you know, research and recipes. Yeah. I would hope that it's something that could be done through a husbandry technique, some way of, you know, setting up a refugium that mass produces a food that they use. I mean, I'll share with you a thought I had. There are 2 different directions. One, that you could illuminate a surface and wipe it with like a windshield wiper, so illuminate and grow some kind of diatom or whatever, and what size surface area would you need for the tank to keep it? And another is, and this one's probably closer to reality, if you go to the west coast of Florida, there are many habitats where the water is super turbid because there are tides that go through muddy zones. And those muddy zones develop a lot of diatoms and other, fauna. And when the tide comes in, it stirs it up, and so you have all of this matter that's food. And those are really rich habitats where there's a lot of clams and other filter feeders. So if you could replicate that in a refugium, maybe, again, scale. How big does that need to be to provide enough food to grow it in the main display? I was excited when I saw some systems set up at Burger Zoo in their mangrove. They had some mud zones there, and they had some small displays off, not on the main display there, where they had mud and they were doing tides in it. And I looked at it and I thought, yeah, when I retire, I want to replicate what they're doing, with the thought of making, and you have to illuminate it. So then the, microalgae is growing, and then when enough flow comes in, it's kicking it up, and you're getting both microalgae and mud as a carrier. That's there in nature where Dendronephtha lives. They tend to live in zones where there's good tidal flow and exchange. But Purina dry powder would probably be easier than doing that.
I know we have a biologist at the academy.
Yeah.
His name is also Julian,
Yeah.
who it takes odahimi and he's ground it into a very fine powder.
Yeah.
And he's feeding that to Scleronephthia and also to crinoids.
Yeah.
So he's been keeping crinoids now for a couple of years.
Yeah.
So, and then I think the other one is the big day crinoids that are out, the big colorful ones. No one's been able
That's
to keep
a
those
challenge.
alive.
On the subject of crinoids, Ali, who I mentioned earlier, he said, you need to see this, Julian, and he shipped me, I think they're from either the Philippines or Indonesia, a kind of crinoid, and he said, nothing to them, easy to keep. And he's right. I've no problem with it. I don't know what genus it is, but there is one kind of crinoid that you can just stick in any old tank, and whatever you're feeding your fish and corals, they're eating it, and easy to keep.
Yeah.
So the generalist rule of crinoids being impossible is not absolutely true. It's mostly true. But there is one kind. I'll have to figure out what genus it is, but it's easy to keep.
We can look at the ones we have tomorrow and see if they're the same ones. These are different. They're different colors.
Yeah.
Matt and I, when I was down in Monterey on Thursday, dropping some fish off, and Matt and I spent some time talking about Dendronephtha as well. And I think the problem that needs to be solved with them is the amount of food that they take in.
It's high volume.
And then maintaining a certain concentration without impacting your water quality.
Yeah.
And so my idea I've always wanted to develop something with a membrane, where on one side you have the water flowing from your tank, and the other side you have your filtration water, and whether that water has phytoplankton in it, so that it absorbs the nitrogen and phosphorus from the water. So it's some kind of a counter-current system. And like those 3M things that Matt has for taking nitrogen with all these little straws, if you made something like that where you could have a counter-current, like we use them all the time in our big tanks, heat exchangers. So we have like a cold water system that runs next to the warm water from the tank, and it absorbs the heat from that warm water. So if you had something that was very hungry for nutrients, like phytoplankton, and you have high nutrient water passing by it, would it diffuse across? Would they take it up?
Nutrient permeable membrane.
Yes.
Ooh, I like that.
Yes.
And NPM exists?
Yep. He's my man back there.
Thomas? Yeah? Right. And could you use that,
they're like $10,000 a
gradient,
piece, right?
that gradient to generate energy? There's a potential energy there?
That's how RO membrane works.
Right.
Yeah.
As long as you have pressure or some type of osmotic gradient,
Yeah.
But I tried to keep I collected Dendronepthyia in Fiji in I think 2000. I set up a circular tank. I had there's photos of it I have somewhere. I think I did an article on it. I don't
Yes,
remember.
you did. I remember. Yeah, with laminar flow.
Yeah, and I had like a circular going in. And I tried all kinds of phytoplankton, but the only thing that really made them open up, like they look brand new, is if I dripped in water in which I had soaked squid. So any kind of animal protein, I put that in there, boom, they would open up. I'm thinking, really? Like, you're supposed to eat phytoplankton. Why are you reacting to that? So
That was probably an amino acid.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
But there's been a lot of papers where they've measured the phytoplankton passing over large colonies of Dendronepthyia and measuring when it comes out the other side, and it's devoid of plankton.
The phytoplankton.
So they're phytoplankton. Yeah. So they're definitely eating the phytoplankton, and they've done where they've traced it into the polyp by having carbon-labeled phytoplankton, and so they know it's going in there. And then there's a certain speed that the water has to be moving at. And if you look at the design of the polyps, they're not designed to capture zooplankton.
Right.
They have no stinging cells. They're a fine net.
Fine sieve.
It's a sieve, so they're trapping stuff. So, and we've been able to keep some of it for a while. And Julian was asking me at work, like, what's the longest anyone's ever kept it? And because he's had a piece now, it's going on 8 months. So we're working at it. Then there's a theory of like, they have to be a certain orientation. Well, just like most things, there's very different species of Dendronepthyia. So I've seen it out on a full lit reef, sitting straight up, and I've seen other types in Fiji where it's on, under overhangs. There's walls where they're just growing out of the wall. And they have strong laminar flow, and then there's a tide change that goes the other way. So with the new Hydro Wizard pump that they have, we can do that pretty easily. So I've been talking about let's build an experimental system so we can get the right flow. We can dial it in. It's 15 centimeters a second. That's what they need. And then for this particular type, and then see what happens.
See, aren't we all excited about this?
Yes.
Imagine a full display of pink and red and yellow and white and all of that stuff with fishes swimming through it. Screw these acros
I think
and stuff.
I kind of feel like some public aquarium with a very large budget on the West Coast somewhere.
I think I know the one.
Not ours.
No. So,
anybody have any more questions for these guys?
Come on.
We covered a lot.
What's the fishing equivalent then? What's like that final frontier fish of dendros and carnations that we haven't cracked the code on?
But did you say fish?
Yeah.
What's the fish?
That so that everybody could keep it easily?
Yeah, something that we just haven't cracked.
Coral eating butterfly fish?
Yeah.
If you have coral.
I think we're pretty close to cracking that one.
Well, there are people that are doing it, but it's a certain couple of different species. But like Ketodon myri or Ornithismus, those are difficult ones to keep.
Yeah.
Because they feed on the coral mucus of mounding corals. They don't feed on the polyps of like a cropper, like some of the ones with the pointed mouths do.
Yeah.
Flapjack squid, Matt, maybe, or Dumbo octopus.
Yeah, but those aren't fish.
They're not.
Yeah, so.
They're not?
No. What would be a good fish example? I mean, once upon a time we would say that about the orange-spotted filefish, but. Right.
I don't think anyone has really been successful with Rhinopius. I mean, most people that I know, most places that have kept Rhinopius, they're lucky if they could keep them for a year.
Yeah.
Matt and Rich did a lot of work with ghost pipefish.
That's
that one. That if you can get them in good condition, they're pretty hardy. Problem is, there's this suspicion they don't live more than a year. That's their natural lifespan.
It should be easy to culture.
Yes.
Right. So you get the full.
Because you guys had them to a certain stage, right?
We just have to
It was a hybrid.
get new ones every year.
Yeah, it's like cephalopods. Like if you're keeping squid or whatever, you just have to have them in culture.
Yeah.
Because I've seen them. I've seen when I dove in Lembeh Strait, Indonesia, it was with Scott Michaels' group, 1996. I have a photo of one that was like that, just had come out of the plankton. And then the dive guys say, we don't see them at a certain time of the year. and then in another you start seeing the little ones,
Yeah.
and then you get the adults, and then they're just gone. So the suspicion is that they're not very long lived.
Sadly, I mean, there's quite a few fish that.
And then pygmy seahorses,
Yeah.
What's the other one?
Barjabantai and
Denise, and the other ones,
Yeah.
which are probably also maybe 1 year
Short
lifespan.
lifespan.
Yeah.
The bloody jellyfish, the blood ones that Matt has. The
Blood red ones, yeah.
What are those called, Matt?
Comb jellies.
The blood jellies, the comb jellies,
Distracted by the dog.
the blood jellies,
Oh,
the
you're talking about home jellies?
combs. Yeah.
Bloody jelly combs.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a Tinophora.
Ctenophores.
Oh, the benthic timophores that we collected in the
In
Philippines.
the Philippines, those are beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. They've actually bred them at Fukushima Aquarium once, I think. They got a bunch of little ones. And ours actually were releasing young. And it's like a conveyor belt. You can see them developing in the arms. Whoop.
Does that happen all the time?
Yeah. None of them flinched. Didn't you see that?
I noticed that. It's like, yeah, okay,
Yeah, that's another one.
right.
And you could see them developing, and then they would just pop out these little ones.
Wow. No, but really, what other fish is super challenging? Not too many.
Great white shark,
Yeah. Mola mola.
mola mola.
Yeah.
Some of the wrasses are still challenging.
Yeah.
You know about that.
You're a wrasse man.
The coatis.
Leopard. Yeah,
the
Kuwaiti.
chick,
Yeah.
But he got one from me recently that's still
70 days now, which is the longest.
Yeah.
Cautiously optimistic.
Okay. That's good.
Anybody else?
You kind of spoke about the bolus method a bit, but you just breezed on it. Would you mind expanding on that possibly? And do you think that that is an effective way to maintain nutrient levels in the home-sized aquarium?
I don't want to seem like I'm dodging the question, but I don't really have any experience. I've never used it.
Nor have I. Yeah.
I know there's a couple of people that have tried it. Keith of Reef Bum
Yeah.
has tried it and then gone away from it.
Yeah.
And he has his reasons why he did that. I know that Mike Paletta is using it and he loves it. And it's working for him. So there's a lot, as they will tell you, like a lot of people would say, like if you're not doing it right. So if the system is so difficult that if you don't do it right a certain way, then that's not really a great system.
Yeah.
But there's people that would always say, complain that something didn't work, and they answer, well, you didn't do it right. So you have to then really explain well how you're supposed to do it.
Do you guys all know what the bolus method is?
So basically, the bolus method, it's come from Fauna Marin, Claude Schumacher, and it refers to the fact of before your lights come on in the morning, you dose your alkalinity supplement, whether
All
it's
of it.
all of it, to like give it a boost, and then later in the day you add your calcium chloride supplement,
It has to be sodium bicarbonate.
sodium bicarbonate, yeah.
And that's,
So-
I think, to maintain
The pH
carbon buffer
and
system,
cover-
so
right.
that when you do dose such a
Yeah.
high amount of alkalinity, that
What-
it's not attacking your system.
I gotta ask the question, what is the reason why you wouldn't shortly thereafter add the calcium?
Precipitation.
No, I can tell you right now it won't. So what's the rationale?
It's something to do, like I said, I don't really know a lot about it. I mean, I've never used it. I've just been listening to people talking about it and
Yeah.
watching, like everyone else, watching stuff on YouTube. We talked about it a little bit at the article in Karlsruhe, but he told me that like he doesn't do it exactly the way that Claude does it, and he just kind of does it. It's a system he's always had.
Modified to his system.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts then, Julian, on
Well-
dosing all the calcium separately?
I really, I'm asking the question. I can't imagine why, because I mean, we make a 2-part supplement, and I find it really beneficial to dose them simultaneously as often as possible. I mean, the best results I ever got was having it going in every 10 minutes, both part A and part B. Obviously, you don't have them right next to each other. You know, I'd have one going into the overflow, one going into the tank where it's circulating, so you get proper mixing. But I've never ever had any precipitation, and you know, they're being added simultaneously. When I've added them by hand, I typically add the alkalinity first, and you know, in the time it takes for me to then switch and wash the container, the cup, then I'm ready to add the calcium side. And
Yeah, I don't feel qualified, sorry, to really answer that.
there might be more to it, but
But I mean,
you know, I don't know.
Claude has videos on YouTube.
Yeah.
There's a guy that's one of his distributors in the UK that helped him to develop that product. He's probably easier to understand, so you could watch that one too. But I can't really answer your question. Sorry.
Technically, what's happening, if you know, we're even describing it correctly, because I haven't actually looked at it, but adding the alkalinity first and then waiting a period of hours, that means your system is imbalanced for that period of hours, and he's then claiming that there's some benefit to having that high alkalinity versus and then getting it back to balance.
His argument is almost the opposite of what you're stating now.
Yeah.
His theory is that it is in balance for that entire time.
Yeah.
And that it's just the hydrogen atoms are in suspension.
Yeah.
And so that your water isn't necessarily unstable. I don't know. It's just something I kind of.
You know what? Now that you mention it, I need to read it. I have not read it up.
Okay,
I've
so
heard the
my other
name.
question then,
You know.
is, do you think that dosing that much alkalinity in one specific time is going to be detrimental to your biosphere?
No, I don't think so. I mean, and it's the bicarbonate that you're adding, right?
Bicarbonate.
Yeah, so the pH is not going to shoot up. It'll be pretty stable. No, I don't think that's a problem. But what might happen if when you start doing that, if your calcium level is pretty high, you could get some precipitation, except that you're doing it in the morning when the pH is low, so you're not going to. I gather the rationale for why you would do it first thing in the morning. Other than that, I don't know. Yeah.
But when Claude comes to the Bay Area,
Yeah, he can
come and
answer
talk
those
to your
questions.
show.
Yeah.
I
I
keep
think
telling.
we're just lucky enough to have you guys here today.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you guys
Well,
so much.
he's talked about coming out. I mean, he comes to the Reefapaloozas. He's gone to the ones on the East Coast.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of time before he makes a trip over to the West Coast. Because he
Yeah.
now has a lab down in LA. It was at Route 66 Aquarium where he's supposedly going to be doing, like, your tests will go there instead of going to Coral View, so it's
Yeah.
closer. So there's a reason for him to come out to I would think,
Supervise.
just meet those guys or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're listening, Claude? This is going to be on YouTube. It's going to be huge.
Huge.
Huge. Yeah.
Anybody?
More questions. Come on.
Have you ever seen any growth structure from halides to LEDs, like different types of growth structures of aquariums? I was watching
don't
a
know.
podcast on Reef Builders, and
Yeah.
saying that LEDs that branch more, and halides they tend to get thicker.
It's an
straight up.
unfair question because you really have to do apples to apples on intensity and spread. It's easy to demonstrate that if the intensity and spread are not, the same, where you could see the differences. If you balance that with the LED and the metal halide, light is light. That should be the same. I personally really like metal halides still, I wouldn't say that I expect or observe a better growth or anything, but I like the look of it. And you can mix them with LEDs or fluorescent lights as well. So yeah, two little fishies. We have, most of the tanks have LEDs, but one still has a metal halide. One that was resurrected, was an old fixture, and Tullio repaired some parts that had gone bad, and we're happy to keep using it because the tank looks great with it.
What's your favorite bulb for halides?
That one uses a 150 watt double end daylight spectrum. And one comment that I would have about it is that the previous 2 bulbs that we used in that one, each bulb had lasted more than 5 years. And the amount of drop in intensity or change in spectrum was minimal.
How long was the bulb here done?
Roughly 12 hours.
Really?
Yeah. So, you know, think about that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like that's going 4 to 8 now.
Yeah. Are you using a double N 150?
250.
250.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it should be similar. Yeah.
And the main system that I'm building will have 400s.
Yeah.
3 400s.
Well, this one is in a fixture that was a tight dome type reflector. It was available from a company in Taiwan. And when I saw it, I thought, oh, that should work really well for getting the light, you know, down. And it did. I mean, I would bet you it would be interesting to get PAR readings and compare to your 250. It's probably quite similar. A good reflector makes such a huge difference. So, yeah, I don't think that it's really fair to say that one type of light versus another is going to give you better growth. It really, you know,
It's a lot of variables.
light needs to be made the same, the spread and intensity. Yeah, how many watts and all too.
I remember there was many years ago when Jobert wrote about his initial system with the plenum. One of the aspects was the lighting. And
Yeah.
what he said that the corals were growing as if they were growing at like 90 feet because of the distribution of the light. Because the light was so like focused as opposed to
Yeah.
as opposed to like spread out evenly. It was more of a point source focus. So the corals were growing as if they were in deep water. So they had, even though the tank is this deep, it looked like the growth form was as if they were at 90 feet. You know, Max told me on his tank in Holland that when he switched over to LEDs, he noticed some corals didn't like it. And he had some mounding brain corals that had, you know, they're kind of mounded, they had tissue down here. And he said over the course of the year, the tissue below it just died. So just the top dome now has live tissue because the spread is so much different. That because of the fixture.
That's optics.
It's optics.
Because I was saying, one of a good friend of mine gave me some bird's nests. He came over to have it directly under the 250. He didn't even recognize the coral. It was
Yeah.
under LEDs the entire time with his cage. And I mean, he's like, what's that? I was like, that's your coral.
Yeah.
And it's just directly under the 250.
So how did it change?
What's that?
How did it change?
Mine's way more dense, and the spikes come out a lot further. And it is hard. I mean, you gotta like snap that thing.
Strong, hard.
Yeah, yeah. And
His were
when you
brittle.
bump it just cracks.
Fall apart. Yeah.
And I've only had it in my system 4 months.
Yeah.
And the other
There
thing
could
that,
be some differences in your calcium and alkalinity too, but yeah.
but the other thing that Max noted was his Montipora. So it was like his orange plating Montipora. A lot of his Montiporas just stopped growing, and it took them a year before he started to see growth rings again. And this is a very stable chemistry system. The only thing that was changed was the light.
But bear in mind, optics make, you know, a huge difference. So to be fair, you know, you would need to do something about that.
Yes. Everything has to be equal, so that the only effect you're seeing is because of the light
Yeah.
technology itself.
All right, you guys, let's give Charles and Julian a huge round of applause here. And Julian brought a bunch of mangroves. If you guys want to purchase some of Julian's mangroves, they're here.
Yeah.
Encore, huh? Yeah, let's run it back.